Welcome to Working for Women, the Independent Women's Forum podcast, where we are changing the conversation about women and public policy for the better.
Hello, I'm Charlotte Hayes, Director of Cultural Programs at the Independent Women's Forum. Today I'm here to talk with IWF's Managing Director, Carrie Lucas, about how government taxes technology. It goes without saying that the Internet and technological advances have reshaped and are reshaping almost every aspect of our life. Carrie, the very fact that I'm here talking to you, you're thousands of miles away in Berlin in Germany, and then we're going to make this conversation available to anyone, everywhere, and anywhere who wants to visit the IWF website. Well, that just boggles the mind, and it just wouldn't have been possible a few years ago. So this is an important topic. Carrie, first I want you to tell me, who do you think are the most important beneficiaries of these technological advances we've seen?
Thanks so much, Charlotte. It really is interesting because I think so much of the time when we hear talk about technology, there's kind of this focus or this idea that it's the gadget guys. It's the guys who are lining up and waiting overnight so that they can be the first one to get the new iPhone that are the biggest beneficiaries of technology. But in fact, I'd argue that that's really not the case. Especially women, I think, are among technology's biggest winners. We may not be as interested in all the latest gadgets, but when it comes to putting technologies to use and really kind of building our lives around them, women have had so many more options created because of technological advances. The work from home, options, which so many women take advantage of now, are really attributable to this increase in cell phone availability and internet technologies. I would argue that women are certainly just as benefit just as much as men, and may really be the technology's biggest winners.
Well, now, what about taxes, Carrie? Can you tell me how the Internet has been treated in terms of taxation since it became such a force in our lives?
Yeah, because it really is. I think that's an interesting story. With back when the internet was still just kind of blossoming, back in the mid 1990s, Congress came out and passed a law saying no taxes on internet access, and this was basically to prevent states and localities from trying to use technology, the internet technology, as a revenue raiser, and because of that, it's really, there's been this, the internet has been free. It's been fairly affordable for people to access. And certainly this has helped in making it as widespread and encouraging the development, and really how it's kind of blossomed into something that was unimaginable in 1998 when I think the first moratorium was passed. But this no tax law or no tax rule has really helped make the internet what it is today.
So do we really need a law of this kind? I mean, why would government want to tax something as important as access to the Internet?
Yeah, you would think this would be something that people everywhere, who doesn't, use the internet today? You'd think that there would be no way that the government could push a tax on the internet because people would rise up and say, hey, no way, hands off my internet. But in fact, I think it's incredibly necessary that a law comes out, that this internet tax moratorium is extended, and that's because it is so instrumental in our lives. Politicians and policymakers, governments out there, they love to tax things that we need. They know that there's really, when it comes to something like the internet, you can put a tax on there, and I'm still going to pay whatever I have to get on because it's such an incredibly important part of my life. For me, as just one example, I use it. I wouldn't be able to have my current job. My kids need it for schoolwork. I stay in touch with my family. I'm talking on an internet-based phone with you right now. So of course, it's I would pay more if I had to, and policymakers know that. Which is why we've seen policymakers take advantage of other services like this. So absolutely, I think there would be a real fear if we didn't have the tax moratorium extended. But again, the good news is I should mention that just this week, the House of Representatives at least has taken action and has extended a internet tax moratorium. So now that's heading to the Senate. So we'll see if that makes it to the president's desk.
Let's talk about wireless services, which we all use. Have you really been saying that wireless services have a special tax in the same way that cigarettes do?
Yeah, well, absolutely. That's one where policymakers saw that we all loved our cell phones, and they said, "Oh boy, this is a great way for us to raise some revenue." And so now wireless services are among the most highly taxed products or services of any that are out there. You're right, just in line with cigarettes and things like special liquor. The average American is paying the combined tax on federal, state, and local tax on wireless is more than 17%. So that means for every time, if you had a $100 cell phone bill, $17, you're going to get $17 of that. Wow. Is going to go to taxes. Yeah, it's really that adds up, and that's a pretty hefty price, and it really just doesn't make any sense.
Carrie, if they hadn't passed this moratorium, we would see the same thing happen to our internet, wouldn't we?
Absolutely. Especially I should mention that the fact that we're at a really, as most people have heard, we're at a new kind of a dawning of a new era when it comes to the internet. You have the FCC has just passed new regulations, which have been called net neutrality, but which have opened the door to allowing the internet to be taxed, since the internet will now be considered a utility, so like your telephone, for purposes of regulation. That gives government kind of new authority for taxing it, and we can hope that by passing an internet moratorium, a tax moratorium, that this might help prevent them, although, like any good bureaucracy, I'm sure they'll be able to find ways to start tacking some fees on if that's what the direction they want to go in. But at least this having a law that says the internet's supposed to remain tax-free should act as a deterrent.
Back to wireless, I suppose at one point cell phones were seen as a luxury item, and so, it was fine to tax them to soak the rich. But really, everybody has a cell phone today. I mean, is that still a rationale for taxing them?
Yeah, I think you're probably right that at one point this was seen as a luxury good, and you could go ahead and say, just like we would put a special tax on yachts, that we can tax these very frivolous cell phones. But of course, we know that that's not at all how it works today. And in fact, there's a lot of people who decide to forego landlines and to use cell phones. And often, people living in bad areas, your cell phones can often be, I consider it a first line of defense safety device. You want to have a cell phone on you in case you get into trouble or something bad happens. And in fact, when you think about who is most hurt by these wireless taxes, it's certainly not rich guys. Rich guys aren't going to care if they've got a $200 cell phone bill and another $20 or $30 or $40 is tacked on. They can handle that. But when it's somebody who needs that cell phone, who's using that as their main line of communication, somebody who is traveling on a bus and needs to be able to get in touch with their loved ones, make ends meet, if that is their main line of communication, it's that can really affect you. For a lower income person, an extra $20-$30, that hurts each month. So these wireless surcharges are very regressive in that they hurt people with lower incomes far more than they do those who are wealthy.
What do you think we should be doing to discourage governments from trying to use technology as a vehicle for collecting more tax revenue? What should we be doing?
Yeah, well, it really is good news that this is something that has bipartisan support in the House, and that they are moving forward on this in Congress. But I really do think it's important for everybody out there to kind of become more aware of this, because I think like a lot of people aren't paying attention. They get their cell phone bills and they pay what they pay and they don't think about it. But they should start paying a little more attention. Listen about the debates in Maryland right now. They're considering a major increase in wireless taxes. In Florida, they're looking looking at rescinding some of the higher taxes and moving in the other direction. People should get engaged in this and tell their elected officials, make this a priority and say, enough is enough. This is not a place that you should be trying to squeeze us for every last dime. Technology is absolutely critical for a lot of folks. It's critical in terms of work opportunities. It's critical for education and for basic everyday communications. There's no reason that technology should be singled out for a special tax.
Carrie, technology has just been a booming sector of our economy at a time when there's a lot of stagnation. What about these taxes? Could they impede that?
Absolutely. It's amazing looking at the potential impact of if this bill doesn't move forward, and if we begin treating internet services like we have wireless services, and everybody starts putting taxes on there, it's going to hit a lot of people and could really end up restricting access. I know you had a great a piece this week on IWF's blog that looked at some of the potential impacts of allowing the internet to get taxed, and this could result in much less access for people, and that's really bad news. We need all Americans. We've talked about the digital divide used to be a kind of a buzzword that we worried about people with lower incomes not having access to technology, and that would be a real concern. Well, start taxing it, and that's exactly what's going to happen. It'll be only those with higher incomes who are going to be able to afford to get online. We don't want that. That's why we really do need to get to keep the tax man at bay.
Well, Carrie, this has been a great conversation, and thank you for being our guest today. And as you know, we have written a lot of us at IWF about these issues at our website, and that blog, that URL is IWF.org. And I hope our listeners today will go and read what we've written if they're interested in this issue. And if you have a computer, you should be interested, or a cell phone. And to those of you who have listened to the podcast today, thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Carrie.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, please give it a thumbs up, share it on social media, or stop by IWF.org for similar content.